So what time did DCYF get involved with you guys? Like, were they over there often, or was it just like a certain period of time? Or
they were there every single day. The police showed up every single day, saying why were they because that's what it was. That's what it was due. That's what it was due to. So Kevin moved out because between me and my wife and Kevin, we were supposed to like pay the bills, keep the heat on, the gas on, whatever. Well, Kevin was supposed to pay the electric bill. He didn't pay the electric bill. Me and my wife, I picked my wife from work and showed up at home. They were shutting the electricity off. So me and Kevin got into an argument about not paying the bill.
Yeah.
And he took his shit and moved out. And then so the next day, DCY, or 2 days later, something like that, I don't know, DCYF showed up and the police showed up because they said that we were unfit to have the children at the house because there was no electricity in the house.
Okay.
But we had a generator running, we had the fridge hooked up to it, there was food in the fridge, everything was fine. The police showed up, seeing that the kids was fine, there was nothing wrong with them. The DCYF showed up and they left.
And was that like summer, fall? Like when was that?
I want to say maybe spring, going into summer maybe.
Oh, okay. So like you guys hadn't been there for too long then.
6 months or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
So we're getting to see what he looks like when he's honest here. His hands are moving. He's illustrating with his hands while he's talking. There's no hesitancy, no delay, no confusion about simple issues like we saw with his daughter. No misunderstandings, no skepticism, no hiding hands, no prolonged self-restraint, gripping with his hands. And this is so great to see that this is the polar opposite of the behaviors that we saw just a few clips ago. So this is a great clip as like, here's our ground truth. And I say truth with quotes around it. Scott, what do you got?
All right. Yeah, he's illustrating, but his arms are all straight and stiff, and the illustrators are all happening right there in front of him, right there on the table. So it's odd looking. But again, I keep saying it, stress levels through the roof, and that lets us know that. He knows this question is important, so he's focused on it, and that's why his legs and torso never move. This guy's almost frozen as he goes through from the neck down. He's just sitting there all tightened up, and he's decided he's fighting for his life now. It's dawned on him that's what's going on because they've got him almost boxed in. Well, he's boxed in, but I mean they've almost got him the way we look at being boxed in, and there's no place for him to go. No place for him to go. So when he talks about being unfit for the children to be at the house, then we see he bends his fingers at that point. That for me was when I said, oh man, this guy is really, he's fighting at this point, and I don't think he has the intellect obviously to win anything against these two guys because they're not ping-ponging him or doing anything like that, but the approach is really, good. I know Greg and I talk about approach differently. Greg, why don't you explain your definition of approach?
Well, no, that's a Scharfian definition of approach, or intelligence interrogation definition of approach is a psychological ploy. The Army approves 14. There are tons of them. But the Army approves 14 to be certified. DOD approves 14 to be certified. And they are simply psychological ploys that certain types of people are likely to fall for. For example, stupid people are more liable to fall for things like pride and ego down and to react aggressively and that kind of thing. It's just one example, 14 ploys. Yep.
All right. So when he's illustrating, and before he says but, he illustrates with his hand. Then he says but. And we illustrate, that's your brain emphasizing specific words and phrases. So when you illustrate and there's nothing there, that means you're talking to yourself or you're thinking about something up here. As I've said over and over from the very first video, a lot of that inner dialogue going on. And I'm sure it's really simple for a guy like this because he's thinking, how am I going to get out of this? He's just thinking of this structurally in blocks and looking for the hole to get out, see if he can escape. And I don't think he's going to be able to. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so you're right, Chase. Though there may be some truth to what he's talking about, I have no doubt that there was a real problem with another male there. There's still a story going on here, which a story is just some of the facts, not all of the facts, some of the facts in a certain order in order to win a certain result. And I think we see that because, yes, his illustrators are up, but they're going all over the place. The geography keeps changing as to where he's illustrated. He suddenly says, oh, that's what it was about. He's got an idea. He's got an idea. But as he starts mapping this out, it goes all over the place. It's indirect, not direct. It's erratic. The geography is not strong. And then the gesture style changes from these downward fingers to a chop gesture when nothing has changed about the story. So I have no doubt that there is an issue with a male, but I do have doubts that this is really the story he should be telling right now. It's not the story they've asked for right now, and his brain knows that. And so it's sublimating another story in its place, and it isn't really meshing together fully. And my guess is he's trying to work out, how do I order these events and these situations in order that suddenly these cops would go, well, that's what it was due to. Oh, yeah, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, well, you were in here for completely the wrong. We didn't realize that. You're free to go. You're free to go. Sorry. And actually collect a check on your way out because we really have bothered you. So let's give you some money as well. That's what he's hoping for in ordering it in this event. Of course, it's not going to happen at all for him. So very indirect at this point, though. There will be some factual elements in there. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, so let me tell you how to know what an interrogation feels like. Tomorrow, assume you're in a job interview. Probably most people's most stressful thing they deal with is a job interview, not usually being pulled over because that's a temporary thing unless they're arrested. But job interviews are tough because it's a sustained 1 hour or more process where people are asking you to tell them things about you. Now, think about that and you're being truthful, how stressful it is. Now, let me also add another piece of stress. Why don't you just make up something, some plain cloth, something you never did, and try to pass it in the interview? Imagine how hard that would be. Think about how hard it is because there are a couple of things going on. The stress of trying to understand what the person's looking for and trying to feed them the right piece of information while hiding this whole block of other things that don't connect. Does that sound stressful? Bing. Guess what this guy's doing? He's in there trying to feed them a second story that's not true while he knows that what they're after, and he's trying to keep himself calm at the same time. And if you don't believe that, Mark, I think this is one of the most brilliant indicators we've ever had where he says, oh, that's what it was. And you see a transition in him, his cadence, that's like no other transition in his baseline we've seen to now. It's just dramatic. It's out of place, doesn't fit anything else. And all that stuff that he's trying to do, anything that he says that's true, he's illustrating, he's using his hands. But his brain is still in there going, I wonder what they believe, I wonder what they don't believe, I wonder what they're asking for. And I'm trying to hide the fact that this little girl has been missing for this long and I've known it. And they're bumping up against my timeline. So you can see anytime he gets the chance to talk about something he's comfortable with, like where I went to school in my interview process, he's boisterous, his head's up, he's illustrating a lot, his eyes are moving to access information. And then when they go back the other way, we see him locked down, less hand moving, folding of his hands, all of that kind of information. So we've got a really good baseline for facts and a really good baseline for when he's uncomfortable. Let's start watching from here. Here's another last one. I love watching the police officers. They know they're walking him into the box. Watch their fingers. They're fidgeting. They're like, okay, come on, just go. Just 2 more steps. And you can see it. It's almost like fishing, watching if you ever fished with like a cork, washing the little bobber and knowing when to close and when to leave it alone. And then finally, the cop is really smart and undersells and said, well, you hadn't been there too long. This guy's locking down a timeline and accountability. Beautiful work.
So what time did DCYF get involved with you guys? Like, were they over there often, or was it just like a certain period of time? Or
they were there every single day. The police showed up every single day. Saying because that's what it was. That's what it was due. That's what it was due to. So Kevin moved out because between me and my wife and Kevin, we were supposed to like pay the bills, keep the heat on, the gas on, whatever. Well, Kevin was supposed to pay the electric bill. He didn't pay the electric bill. Me and my wife, I picked my wife from work and showed up at home. They were shutting the electricity off. So me and Kevin got into an argument about not paying the bill.
Yeah.
And he took his shit and moved out. And then so the next day, or 2 days later, something like that, I don't know, DCYF showed up and the police showed up because they said that we were unfit to have the children at the house because there was no electricity in the house.
Okay.
But we had a generator running, we had the fridge hooked up to it, there was food in the fridge, everything was fine. The police showed up, seen that the kids was fine, there was nothing wrong with them. The DCYF showed up and they left.
And was that like summer, fall? Like when was that?
I want to say maybe spring, going into summer maybe.
Oh, okay. So like you guys hadn't been there for too long then.
6 months or so.
Okay.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.